What the new world will allow to do is actually take the commissioning voice into environments where patients are. A lot of how the network we're using locally is to have a network of network concepts whereby we go and talk to citizens or patient groups where they're meeting about issues relating to either themselves directly or broader health-related issues, and that gets a different voice within the consultation.
Also, it's very important now that we've got a really good opportunity to ensure that health and social care is delivered in a much more synchronised way so that patients actually get a good service from being ill to recovery to home. And that they have a voice in how that happens. Alternatively, no, I don't want to be treated in hospital, I want to be treated in home or a place of my choice.
The role of the lay member is broadly twofold. One is to act as a board member in ensuring that the board makes decisions in appropriate ways, that it manages conflicts of interest and the like. But the second and more particular responsibility attached to my role is to ensure that the CCG reflects the needs of its patients and public in its commissioning strategies, and that it is held to account for delivering in accordance with those needs. And that's how I see my role for the future.
We've always worked very, very closely with the local health service, with the police, with the fire service, with Sure Start, Hope Special School, the Children's Centre. It's provided an ideal opportunity for doing consultations. We have health weeks, health days. It gives us a possibility. We've been trialling recently the new questionnaires for the Health Watch steering group. It's an ideal opportunity of us feeding information up, but also feeding information out to the community.
I think the relationship with patients and the ability to deliver bad news in a way where the messenger is separated from the news is what we're used to doing. It's about putting things in front of patients, so let patients make an informed choice about it and then live with the consequences of those choices. And generally, if you take people with you as to why the expertise and the wisdom would be to do it in a certain way, you can then have a genuine dialogue about that, and then the patients actually become the agenda for change driver. And quality tends to be the big thing which will allow patients to say, no, you've got to do it in this way, even though historically we may have wanted it done something differently.
The group was set up about 4 months ago. The main purpose of it was to bring together a large number of disparate patient participation groups which were operating on their own, but we felt it would be more helpful if they worked together. My hope is that not only will they be better prepared and involved locally as a result of being together more, but I also think that together they'll be able to present a much more unified approach to needs and problems and issues around health and their GP practices across the borough.
If we all have that shared vision that actually says we're about working as a collective to deliver service improvements that will manifest themselves in real health and well-being gains for the people out there, I would expect GPs and all those operating within the service to sign up to that.
I don't think it's the responsibility of one particular organisation. It's more of a collective responsibility for the NHS, the council and the public health to play the part in improving the health and well-being of the community and all the people around the areas that we work in.
I think doctors do have to learn how to communicate better with, not with patients, but with the general, in this case, public, because they cease to be their patients and become the Wigan public in terms of what services that they're going to get and what they want. So I think, yes, doctors do need to be educated in communicating better. I think some patients would say that doctors need to be educated better in communicating across the board, because some of them don't communicate very well, even with their patients. So yes, there's a lot of work that he's doing in that respect.
Remember, the patient's first contact is the doctor, and therefore they see it as a shortening of the communication route by having clinicians in charge of commissioning and NHS services.
I think the art of being a doctor is to be able to communicate effectively to anybody. Yes, we're used to dealing on an individual basis, but actually to deal with a population or a group is a similar process. It's just applying those skills in a different manner. And we as GPs are highly trained in communication, and it's just using those skills in a different context.
I think the issue about being involved in your health is so pertinent to everybody. The very fact that you're getting older day by day means that you're more susceptible to illnesses as you go along, and particularly with an ageing population. It becomes almost essential that you have a role to play in your own health.
That really is the CCG's responsibility, to impart sufficient information and education to patients for them to be involved and responsible, not only in commissioning but responsible for their own healthcare.
I'm very optimistic. The new culture will bring opportunities for us to make a difference, to actually work with patient and public groups, to find out what is important to them, recognising that those needs will be different in different parts of the borough, and developing commissioning strategies that reflect that and ultimately reflect in positive outcomes for those people. So optimism is very much the driving force for me in why I choose to do this.
I think the best strategy, other than putting posters and advertising, is to try and engage people face to face, ask them the questions for them to hear the answer, and it's a confirmation for them to know what they need to do. Ask them certain questions. Have they got people that they can go with, family and friends, who they feel comfortable with? A lot of the times people don't want to do this on their own, but sometimes some people want to go with someone, have someone waiting outside. So if you've got someone around you or with you, it's a good way of tackling this illness.
I think we're doing it from the bottom upwards. The whole of commissioning has been basically to take the doctor and the patient in front of them and to take that forward. So our practices have got a number of PPG groups within them. We're then bringing patients into patient pathway redesign. So we've done a lot of work around a number of pathways, including urgent care, where patients have been involved in both setting the priorities and then working out how to deliver those. We're also out there actually championing through our Health Champions network to actually get patients selling the idea about the need for change in the community. And then finally bring patients into our governance processes to oversight us, to make sure that we're being true to our word.
I think the community serving the community has a lot of plus points. For instance, in the centre, the local residents tell us they'd much rather bring their babies for baby weighing in the centre.
When I first got involved with PPG a few years ago, we had 3 groups in the locality out of 24 practices. Today we have 22 groups, and it'd be nice to have 24. And to be absolutely open, it would be nice to have 24 with full representation. So those are the goals we have, is to have 100% PPG groups with a widespread representation of patients across the piece.
Patient groups understand that resources are limited, funding is not infinite, that we need to be spending relative to our priorities, and determination of those priorities, whilst we might get through the Joint Service Needs Assessment, they must be informed by patient groups and what matters to people out there. So it's vital in taking this work forward.
Historically, the NHS has done things to people. It has encouraged dependence upon the NHS, and it's turned it into a sickness service. The future of the NHS has got to be more about empowering patients so that they have responsibility for their own life and can make decisions wisely about what's best for them, using the resources and skills and knowledge they have. And that has to be the future of where we take the NHS.
It's important that the CCGs really engage with the public. I think for 2 reasons. One, to be accountable for what they do, to ensure that the difficult decisions they make are evidence-based, and therefore they can say we are doing the best possible we can for the public in Wigan. And again, the second one is that the more public that are actually involved in this process, the more the CCGs can make evidence-based decisions, because they're getting the information from the people who are actually using the services.
It's important that when we come to judge whether engagement and community involvement has been successful, that we ought to look at two key areas. One is, has the patient actually gained something out of this? Have they actually had a better service? Do they feel better about what they've received? And secondly, do the NHS stroke, senior management, etc., feel that they've spent their money really wisely?